These are 4 things that you have to do in the garden this fall if you want to grow an even better garden next year. Hey, it's Phil from Earth Nails and Tails, and you just spent all season growing a garden. Hopefully it was productive, maybe it wasn't. But I guarantee if you follow these 4 steps, your garden is going to be more productive than ever before next season. First, and this step might seem obvious, but it can easily get overlooked, and some people even do it wrong. Let's remove the old plants. One mistake that most gardeners make is simply ripping out old plants. Don't. As plants grow, they actually create beneficial microbial connections in the soil. We're talking beneficial fungi and bacteria that actually make connections with your plant's roots and the soil. This helps to increase nutrient as well as moisture uptake by your plants, basically making them healthier. And not just your plants, but the soil as a whole. So every opportunity that you get, you should cut your plants out at the base, at the soil level, and leave the roots to decompose. Everything we can cut out, we can compost the good stuff. But if you have any disease or pest infested plants, it's best to completely remove those from the soil and dispose of them. Get them off of your property so that way you're not harboring anything over from season to season. If you have to rip some of your plants out, don't freak out because the next 3 steps that we're going to take are going to help to rebuild those microbial connections in the soil. Second, we want to add fertility to the garden and keep the soil protected while our garden sleeps. And one of the easiest and most effective things that you can do is add a 1 to 2 inch layer of compost to all of your garden beds. And if you're not sure how much compost you need, I created a free tool on my website, and I'll make sure I leave a link in the description down below. Compost isn't soil itself, but it contains a ton of organic matter and beneficial microbes. And when you mix that with existing soil, it can actually increase the fertility as well as the soil's structure and can even transform clay or sandy soils into more ideal conditions to grow vegetables. Compost actually takes years to break down. Science has shown about 4 to 5 years for it to completely break down and add to your soil. So, adding it in the fall is a perfect time because it actually has a time period where it can kickstart that process and start adding fertility and microbes to your soil. And compound that with the freezing and the thawing of the rain and the snow, it actually helps to loosen up your soil and make little channels aerating your soil and adding all that fertility deeper, which is going to help to speed up that process and give you even better results next year. There is one really important thing that you need to be aware about when you're adding compost, and it's the fact that compost is usually higher in phosphorus and potassium, 2 of the 3 essential macronutrients required for plant growth. The other one, you probably guessed it, is nitrogen. And nitrogen can easily move in and out of soil, so it's a really good idea to add a good dose of nitrogen fertilizer after you plant your plants in the spring. Third, one of the most important things that you can do for your garden is to keep it planted. Even after adding a nice layer of compost on the top of our soil, keeping the soil planted is what helps to keep the microbes fed. Plants are really good at capturing carbon from the atmosphere, turning it into sugars, and injecting it into the soil. And this is what actually feeds the microbes in the soil that feed your plants and makes your soil more fertile. This is why science has been leading us away from tilling our soils. Because when we till, we're actually releasing all of that carbon that the plants worked so hard to create back into the atmosphere. But two, taking it away from the microbes that actually work to feed our plants. You may have heard of cover crops, and the purpose of these crops is exactly what I just explained. They're extremely efficient at capturing carbon and injecting them into your soil. And some amazing options are clover, rye, and even vetch. Plus, you can utilize them to protect your soil even after they die back. These plants are best planted in the fall and then either tamped down or tarped before they reach their flowering stage, so that way they can add all of their goodness back into the soil. Plus, in the spring, after they've decomposed, you can just pull it apart and plant right in, which creates a natural mulch, and it's going to continue to break down and add even more nutrients, making better plants. So, if you don't intend on growing a fall garden, using cover crops to me is essential. But if you live in a warmer zone like I do, you can plant and grow through the winter. For example, I've got carrots, beets, cabbages, peas, and soon I'm going to be getting ready to plant some garlic and onions. And most people, if you're in zones 5 through 9, can be extremely successful growing garlic over the winter. And I'm actually hosting a masterclass inside of my private community on October 6th. So I'll put a link down in the description. The first 7 days inside of the community are absolutely free. So you can come to the masterclass, gain some knowledge, see what it's like inside the community, and hopefully you stick around. The fourth and final step that I want you to take to get your garden ready to sleep this winter is to keep the soil covered. One of the most important things that you can do to increase the fertility of your garden is to keep the soil covered. Let me ask you a question. Where in nature do you see barren soil? I'll give you a hint. Nowhere. Where you see barren soil is called a desert, and guess what? Nothing is planted. But let's look at a rainforest, the most productive ecosystems in the world. Yes, they get constant rain, but their floors are covered with plants and with fallen leaves and decaying matter. This is what makes them so fertile and productive. So, in order to mimic this in our garden, we can add things like compost, or we can plant cover crops, or do our best in general to keep our gardens planted. But we want to do everything that we can to keep our soils covered. And my favorites in the vegetable garden are either using fallen leaves from our trees around our properties or local neighborhoods, or we can even opt for a straw mulch, which isn't free but works really well. And for my more natural areas, like you see here with my fruit trees, and I do the same thing with my fruiting shrubs, I like to apply a layer of wood chips. The difference between fruit trees and our vegetable gardens are the different types of connections that happen in the soil. Our fruit trees are more fungal dominant, so wood chips is perfect. Fungi break down the wood chips, add all that goodness back into the soil, whereas our vegetable gardens are more bacterial dominant. So adding things like leaves and straw really help to increase the fertility of those soils. But either way, the whole purpose of adding this layer is to increase the moisture retention of the soil, protect the microbes over the winter so that way they can continue to work and break everything down and add fertility to that soil. But also, if you lived in a more sloped area, it can help with runoff and erosion. Overall, just keeping all of the soil that you have worked so hard to build working and on your property where you need it. And that is exactly how you build long term fertility and productivity in your garden. I'll admit, it's not glamorous work, but I guarantee you that these 4 steps will help to protect your soil and add the fertility that you have been longing in order to grow a more productive garden next year. And if you continue to do this year after year after year, you will see the difference. And I challenge you to take before and after pictures of you applying these steps and keep them for your records, because once you see these systems work, it's mind blowing to see the changes in the health and vigor of your garden and how much additional produce you'll be pumping out. So get out there. You don't have to do all of these steps right now, but these are simple, actionable steps that you can take that I want you to do before winter in order to protect your garden. Hey, make sure you check out the description for all of the amazing add-ons and details. And I hope to see you at the Garlic Growing Masterclass on October 6th and continue to see you inside the community along after that because every single month we're going to be doing masterclasses in order to help you grow. If you like this video, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let me know in the comments, what do you want to see next? I'll see you next time.